Welcome back to Innovating Education, the podcast where we explore fresh ideas and practical strategies to support educators in creating a positive learning environment. I'm your host, Dr. Riley Williams, and today we're joined by Teresa Ramirez, a motivational speaker, award winning, best selling author, and kindness ambassador dedicated to helping parents foster a culture of kindness at home. Today, she is here to help us translate those tools into the classroom. Teresa, welcome to the show.
Hi, and thank you so much for having me.
Well, I would like to go ahead and start with your journey. What inspired you to focus your work on kindness, and why is it so important in today's world?
It started actually with a school shooting back in 2018. And don't ask me why that's shooting, but it did. And I just wanted to do more than grieve and sympathize with them. I wanted to empower those kids. I wanted to say, hey, go sit with that kid that's sitting alone at lunch. Pick them up. Just treat each other the way you want to be treated. And then I just kind of sat on it because I didn't know where to go. And in 2019, I did a 21-day kindness challenge on Facebook. And I got to go out to a couple schools. So it was all good. And then COVID hit. And like everybody else, I landed in front of my computer.
So, can you tell us about your book and how it helps parents foster kindness in children?
Yeah, it's Raising Kind Children. And what I did was I had started to do research and pick things up, and somebody just kept saying, write the book, write a book. So I made it into a process that's simple for the busy parent. It's using day-to-day activities. So it's nothing you have to add other than an action. And a great example of how easy that is there was a mom with the toddler, screaming toddler, I might add, in the cart. And she's trying to open those dreaded produce bags. And, we've all been there, and you just kind of go, how come they're so hard to open? And you could just see on her face, if I could just get these two things, I can get out of here. And I'm coming around the corner, seeing this, and a gentleman goes up to her and takes the bag, opens it, hands it back. The kid stops crying, and the weight of the world has been lifted off her shoulders. You can just see it in her face. And all he did was open a produce bag. It's that simple. And a smile and a hello goes a long way.
Now, how can we translate those strategies into education? Say, as a teacher on an individual level, and then as a school district in a global level.
Okay. And the teacher, it depends on what class you teach, but you can incorporate it. For example, an English class, write a composition on what does it mean to you to be kind? And that might be an eye-opening thing for teachers and for schools to find out what the kids' perspective is. Or how can you be kind to someone? Any type of paper like that they can write. Science class, you set up a row of plants. They get the same amount of light. They get the same amount of water. But one half only gets the sunlight and the water. The other half, you're speaking kind words to it every day. And you're going to notice those set of plants are going to grow higher, bigger. And that's all teaching kids the power of their words, the power of using kind words, and what it can do. And if it can do that to a plant, guess what it can do to a child? Those kind of things.
I guess one of the things I'm thinking about are middle schoolers. We try to tell them, be kind. Some of them are going to roll their eyes. The other half are going to laugh at you. But I think the trick is making it meaningful and engaging for students, right? So how can schools and teachers design kindness programs that feel authentic?
Like the paper or the biology, that just flows right into what you want to teach them anyway. So those are all simple things that can be done and worked in without kind of banging on their heads. Be kind, be kind, be kind. Because, yeah, you can speak all you want to. It's not going to make a difference. I know one school has a kindness council. You can also do a project. Let's do an appreciation for the Cafeteria Workers Day. Same thing with custodians.
One of the things that I'm also thinking about, and it does put a little bit more stress on our teachers, but having someone always greet the students.
It's funny, that reminds me, there's a elementary school down the street, and I pass in the morning, which I don't like to do that because the lines are so long. But as I'm sitting there waiting, I'm watching the principal greet the walkers. I watch some kid jump off the bus and fly at the principal and give him a big hug. That might be, depending on what's going on at home, the only hug that kid gets today. But it was just heartwarming to see these kids couldn't wait to talk to this man. And one kid tried to pass him by, and he said, "Oh, no, no, no. What's going on?" I mean, I watched this, and you could just see, are you okay? Checking in with the kids. And that's a lot to put on a principal too, but I saw firsthand what that meant to those kids.
And also, I think maybe like a drawing on a chalkboard or something that says, welcome, good morning, it's going to
Yes.
be a great day, things like that. Those are really small things that can be initiated by the school.
Mm-hmm. Art class. Do an art class, draw kindness. What does that look like? I think it's fascinating to get the kids' perspective. And then you can put the artwork in the classroom, along the walls, out in the hallways.
So, lunchtime loneliness. This is a time whenever social exclusion is very obvious in schools. So,
Mm-hmm.
are there any specific school-wide kindness initiatives that can help reduce lunchtime loneliness or loneliness
That's
during recess to help create more inclusive cultures?
Now, I have heard of a couple things, but the buddy bench for recess is a bench. If you're feeling down and not feeling good that day, you sit on that bench, and there are kids assigned to go and sit with them and help them out. In cafeterias, some schools have it where they're not allowed to sit alone. The teachers, whoever's monitoring lunchtime, make sure that there's nobody sitting alone. They have to have a group. Another story, my nephew, he saw the kid in a wheelchair, and the kid could not carry his lunch tray and push his wheelchair. So my nephew went over there, said, "Here, I'll take the tray. Where do you want to sit?" And the kid kind of shrugged and goes, "Well, yeah, come sit with us." Well, come to find out, my nephew is an athlete, and most of his friends are too. The kid in the wheelchair, he knew every sports statistic out there. These kids had so much fun, and they made a new friend, but they had something in common. And had he not reached out, they would never have known
I like that. I love statistics, by the way. um,
that.
you know, research shows that peers step in. I'm totally transitioning to a
That's
bullying
okay.
segment, but research shows that when peers step in, bullying stops within 10 seconds, 57% of the time.
Wow.
So, how would you say schools can encourage or empower students to be upstanders rather than passive bystanders in bullying scenarios?
You have to model it. Um, Another story. This is something I saw on the news not too long ago. A kid had been bullied
Mhm.
and changed schools because of it. Well, the teacher let her class know, "He's been bullying. We want to change that. We want to welcome him." The kids went crazy. They wanted balloons, streamers, gifts. This kid was so welcomed into that school. Again, just a little direction. And I think kids are innately good, innately want to be kind. So you just give them a little thing, something new to focus on, and they'll go crazy.
So, let's talk a little bit about restorative justice approaches. These are approaches that emphasize repair over punishment, which reduce repeat bullying behavior. How can schools integrate kindness into their discipline policies while still holding students accountable?
It's not easy, but you have to remember that bully's going through something, whether it's something at home, something outside in the environment. So this is where a counselor would be helpful trying to ask, again, those open-ended questions to find out what is triggering this. Why do you need to feel you have power over something?
How can schools train teachers to facilitate restorative conversations that encourage personal accountability and kindness?
I always say catch them doing something good, doing
Hmm.
something right. And I think if we focus on that direction instead of always focusing on the negative, let's focus on, hey, you guys did a great job. You're going to get the gold star today. Those kind of things. Just continually focusing on the positive and watching for, instead of, because I think it happens, and that's natural that you're looking for the bad, but always start looking for the good. If you're, especially high school, junior high, you're in the hallways watching the change of classes and you see somebody helping another kid. Oh, we're going to nominate them for the gold star this week, or whatever you guys want to do for an initiative. But that to me would go so much further than focusing on the negative.
So, going back to our parents, students spend more than 80% of their time outside of school, and yet most of the kindness initiatives that schools are trying to implement stop outside the classroom doors. How can schools engage parents and caregivers to reinforce kindness based strategies at home?
That would, I go back to encouraging parents to be the CEOs and reminding parents. Sometimes you have to come in and have a parent meeting to remind them that your kids are watching you. So what you're
Mhm.
posting on social media, they're going to read. Road rage in the car. The high schoolers, they're going to be driving in another year. They're watching how you behave. So just, I think, emphasizing to, with any class, like any classwork, this is what we did in school today. We would like you to reinforce it this way at home, and maybe have a little homework for the parents. I don't see a problem with that.
I like that. I like that a lot. Okay. So I have two questions for you before we wrap up. So, what is one key takeaway that you want our listeners to remember from today's conversation?
Biggest takeaway is, especially, we like to beat up on the bully. Just remember that you never know what he's going through. And it's hard, but have a little empathy for the bully and see about trying to get him help
Mhm.
versus let's beat everybody else up in the process.
All right. So, my last question: where can listeners connect with you and learn more about your work or get a copy of your book?
You can go to the book on Amazon, Raising Kind Children, Journey in Kindness /content. Contacts will get you to my website, which also has links to the book.
Thank you so much for joining us today and for the incredible work that you're doing. Kindness is just a core part of our education. And, to our listeners, thanks so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to subscribe to Innovating Education and share this episode with your colleagues or friends who you think could benefit. Until next time, keep innovating and keep inspiring.